Hi, this is Whiskey, and this is my guide to playing a Fury Warrior. In this video, I'll show you how to spec, how to gear and gem, how to allocate stats, and how to perform your rotation. Alright, first let's talk about talents. I'm not going to go over all the basics of how to spec Fury. I'm just going to cover basically some of the more difficult decisions that you might have to make when specking Fury, some of the filler talents that are optional, some different choices you can make going down the trees. Alright, now you want to stay with 18 points in arms. You don't want to go over that. You don't need anger management. You don't need, it doesn't help that much. If you calculate it out, it's something like 30 rage over 5 minutes. You can pick Iron Will instead of Deflection. You can probably take a couple points from there and throw it in here if you want to. I don't see what this would do in a raid environment. You rarely ever get stunned or charmed. Improved Rend. Some people like to try and throw Rend in their rotation. It is possible. It is a DPS upgrade if you do it properly, but I'll talk about that later. Improved Tactical Mastery. This is necessary, I think, if you want to be able to get off a Shattering Throw in combat. Shattering Throw costs 25 rage. By default, you're only allowed to keep 10 rage when you change stances. Tactical Mastery allows you to keep an additional 15 rage if you put 3 out of 3 into it. And that makes a total of 25 rage. And that way you can cast a Shattering Throw without running out of rage when you change your stances and messing up your rotation. Okay, and in Fury, you can see I've got an Unbridled Wrath. That's okay to have, or you can have Improved Demo Shout or Booming Voice if you need to be doing shouts. That might be a little better to have for 10-mans, or if you need to be casting anything. Piercing Howl, I think, is pretty important to have. Piercing Howl. It comes in handy a lot in Ice Crown, like Lich King or Velythria. There's ads you need to slow. I put 1 point to improve Berserker Rage, just so I can ramp up my rage out of combat. It's basically just a filler. You can probably throw it in Improved Execute if you want. I don't really use Execute too much, so I don't think it's really important. Heroic Fury, you want to have this. Some people don't have it, and once again, that point could probably go into Improved Execute. If you want to max out Improved Execute, it'll shave off 5 rage from Execute if you cap it out, which is okay, but you can only use Execute at the very end of the boss fight, so I don't think it's really important. And that's basically it for how I spec. Alright, let's talk about gear, gemming, and stats. Alright, first off, stats. You need to have 5% hit rating base, and then you can add 3% from your talents, making 8%, which is the hit cap of a level 83 boss, and to ensure that all your yellow attacks hit. And 26 expertise is the cap. I've got 27, that's okay. It's okay to be a little over, not a big deal. And you want to cap Armor Pen if you can. If you're way under geared and you're a beginning Fury Warrior, or if you're playing an alt Fury Warrior or something, then you may not have all the best gear, or all the good gear, or enough gear to come close even to capping. Now here's the rule of thumb. If you're above 45% Armor Pen from gear alone without gems, then it's time to start gemming for Armor Pen. Swap all the strength gems out for Armor Pen gems. And once you cap Armor Pen, then you're gonna, most of my gems are strength now, because I've got enough gear to way overcap my Armor Pen. And all your yellow sockets, you're gonna want to put a 10 strength, 10 crit rating gem if you're Armor Pen capped. If you're not, you might want to put armor pen gems in those yellow sockets just to reach the cap. I think that might be the better decision if you're under the armor pen cap and you need it just to cap. But in my case, if you have enough gear, then 10 strength, 10 crit gems in the yellow sockets if you can get the socket bonus. The socket bonus almost always makes it more beneficial to put the 10 strength, 10 crit rather than just a 20 strength gem or a 20 armor pen gem. Even if it's agility, even if it's 4 agility, it still is a slightly better DPS increase than just having a solid strength gem. Like in this item, for example, 20 strength and a 10 strength, 10 crit. Now the only exception would be an item that has blue sockets in it. Like both of my weapons, for example. They both have a blue socket. So I completely ignore it because the blue socket negates the socket bonus being beneficial. Unless you put your 10 to all stats gem in there. Nightmare Tear. And I've got mine in my armor. I could probably throw it in one of my weapons and get a slight DPS increase by getting the 8 strength socket bonus and throwing in another 10 strength on crit, but I don't feel like spending 600 gold for a 2 DPS increase. It's not a big deal. For your meta gem, a lot of people have the 21 crit, 3% crit damage. If you notice, I have the 21 agility, 3% crit damage. It is almost the exact same thing. And in fact, I think it's even better. I think it's even more crit out of it. And the better thing about this meta is the requirements are 1 red gem, 1 yellow, and 1 blue. The 21 crit, 3% crit damage meta requires something like 2 blues and a red or something. And so if you put 1 Nightmare Tear in one of your pieces of gear, that covers all the requirements for all of the meta, and you're covered. So that's the best way to go. Stay away from the 21 crit. Also, something that's relatively new, a lot of people use 21 agility on their cloak. The haste rating has, at least at my gear levels, I don't know if it's the same for everyone, but at higher gear levels at least, the 23 haste rating enchant is slightly more DPS than the agility. So I'm going to get mine changed pretty soon, and if you haven't, you should too. All the other enchants should be pretty self-explanatory, you know, attack power, attack power, attack power, attack power. I've got 12 hit, 12 crit. I highly recommend you have speed on your boots. Everyone should have speed on their boots. I don't care what class you are, just so you have mobility. Mobility is one of the most important things in this game. The reason I have 12 hit, 12 crit right now is just because I was slightly under the hit cap and I could not gear myself to cap my hit rating. As you notice, I'm 170. If you subtracted the 12 from it, that's 158. And this was such a big DPS increase just to cap my hit. That's how important it is to be hit capped. That I believe it negates the run speed. I get away with it by using charges and whatnot. Everything else is pretty basic. Berserking.